Let us get into something I mentioned last week. I wasn't able to flesh out much more, but now that he's back from his vacation, we can talk about it in some detail. The producer for the Vince Coglianese show is the great Corey Inganamort. And Corey joins me now. Corey, you were just in Puerto Rico for a wedding, correct?
That's correct, Vince. I just got back late last night. I was in Puerto Rico Wednesday. I got in Wednesday of last week, and I got back last night. So feeling rested, relaxed, and ready to go. I had a fun story to tell.
And by the way, you coming back last night, this is weather related. You did say that you ran into some weather issues getting just into the city, just landing at Reagan National?
Yeah, not ideal. We were circling DCA for a little while until the storms passed.
Yes.
I got a little iffy. I've done this before where they actually divert the plane. When it happened to me, we had to land in Pittsburgh so we could regas and come back. So we were killing time. Luckily, the storms passed, but it was only about an hour delay or so.
Yeah, and I know I was mentioning earlier, too, the Beyonce concert that was happening north of you at FedEx Field also got delayed last night. A couple big concerts here as the weather's hitting hard. There's also, of course, that Pink concert taking place today at Nationals Park. We'll see what happens with it. I did see that the Nationals posted a bit ago that they'll post any weather updates to their Twitter account, or for those people who are in stadium, they'll be able to see it in stadium. So weather, of course, a concern tonight. But you mentioned you have a good story coming out of Puerto Rico. You texted me last week, and you said something to the effect of, guess who I'm standing here with? Tell me, what happened?
Well, I got to the hotel, the Caribe Hilton, on Wednesday afternoon, and we're walking around. And I see that there's a teachers convention going on. There were signs for it. One of the conference rooms were being used. I didn't think much of it until the next morning. I get to the breakfast where I had continental breakfast complimentary, by the way. So I get to the breakfast room and I realized all that they have, by the way, was like Fruit Loops and some stale toast. So I decided to pay the $35 upgrade. So sitting next to me there was all this great breakfast, omelets, lox, all this. So I upgrade. I fill up my plate. I'm feeling really good about everything. Sit at my table with my two friends, and I look to my right, and there is the supervillain herself, Randi Weingarten. She's sitting about 10 feet away from me.
Yeah, the head of the American Federation of Teachers, Randi Weingarten, one of the most powerful teachers union officials in the entire country, has the ear of the President of the United States and every other powerful Democrat, and she is sharing the same breakfast facility as Corey Inganamort. Was this a fancy place? I've been meaning to ask you, how fancy was this hotel?
It was pretty fancy. It was pretty fancy. Yeah, I'm sure Randi Weingarten, I looked it up. She makes $560,000 a year, Vince. I don't think she's slumming it. And
that's just her salary. That's not even like the extra perks that she gets, the travel paid for, the hotel rooms at places in the Puerto Rican island. Yeah, they're all
I'm sure
covered.
She has speaker fees, all this kind of stuff. So she's sitting down about 10 feet away from me, schmoozing it up with looks like 8 or so teachers. They're having a grand old time. And that's where I sneak a picture and I send it to you, Vince. I'm like, I'm biting my tongue right now. I want to say something. Randi Weingarten sitting right next to me. And I was planning on biting my tongue. I did for at least 10, 15 minutes. And then she gets up, starts walking around the room, schmoozing with everybody. And everybody's so happy to see her. And that's when my blood started to boil. She's talking to all these teachers. The teachers are introducing her to their children. And I overheard some story how this one kid wanted to be an immigration lawyer, and she was giving him an inspirational speech and how you can do it. And like, I'm listening to this and I'm like, okay, just biting my tongue. But then I was like, you know what? I need some more lox and cream cheese. So I went up to the front of the buffet and I timed this out. I just kind of stood there until I saw she was exiting the room because I had to say something. So I said,
right. You saw your moment slipping away. Yeah. She was walking away, and you said, and all of the dithering you were doing finally led to this desperate moment. You're like, I've got to say something.
Got to say something. So I see she's walking out, and I time it so I'm walking next to her, and I just not so much in her face, but side to her. I pointed it at her. I said, "Shame on you for closing down our schools and setting our children back a generation." I said it just like that, enthusiastically, but I didn't yell it. I didn't shout her down in front of everybody in the room, but I just had to say something. And I expected her to keep walking and maybe ignore me, but she turned right around her and her posse of about 3 people. And she's like, what do you mean I closed down schools? And I was like, oh, well, here we go. So I said, are you telling me you didn't close down schools? I said, you testified among Congress. I said, you said that you were texting with Rochelle Walensky. I said, why are you texting Rochelle Walensky? You're coming up with policies to keep schools closed.
Yeah, Rochelle Walensky's not even with the education department. CDC director, Rochelle Walensky.
Yeah.
So why is the head of this teachers union texting with Rochelle Walensky? What'd she say?
That's exactly what I asked her. I said, why are you texting with Rochelle Walensky? I said, why do you have her number? And she snapped back at me. She says, everybody has Rochelle Walensky's number. I said, I don't have Rochelle Walensky's number. And she rolled her eyes and she said something. I said, you kept schools closed for so long. My nieces really suffered from that. They had to stay at home. They tried to learn remotely. That didn't go well for them. She's like, well, what state did your nieces go to school in? I said, New Jersey. She's like, oh, well, I worked very hard with that governor in New Jersey to keep schools open. Which is absolute BS. Phil Murphy, Mr. The Bill of Rights is out of my pay grade, is one of the worst governors in America. And for some reason, he kind of keeps a lower profile than the Gretchen Whitmers or the Cuomos or Gavin Newsom's. But Phil Murphy is a terrible governor. And I know from experience that my nieces were out of school for a very long time. And
the urging of people like Randi Weingarten.
Exactly.
Who wanted to keep the schools shut down. And New Jersey, kind of much more famously, is very beholden to the teachers' unions there. So if the teachers' unions are calling the shots, they don't care if they're going to destroy the kids. That's what happens.
Mm-hmm. And she insisted that she was working to keep the schools open. I said, no, you weren't. And then that's kind of where we hit a dead end. She's like, well, you're not listening. We're not getting anywhere. I said, exactly. I just had to tell you that we're all ashamed of you. And then she walked away. And that, I felt the adrenaline rushing a little bit. I sat back down with my friends and we enjoyed the rest of the day. And I thank God that I did not run into Randi Weingarten at the hot tub later that day. I was keeping an eye out for a number of reasons, but that vacation was going so well until that point.
That would have put a real damper on the whole vacation, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Randi Weingarten, here is Corey's memory is great, and so is his audio clipping ability. Here's a flashback to the time Randi Weingarten claimed she had the direct line to Rochelle Walensky.
Do not talk to representatives of the government.
Do you have a direct number to Director Walensky?
Do I have Director Walensky's direct number?
Yes.
Yes, I have Director Walensky's direct number.
Well, hopefully she'll give it to me too.
Yeah, there's a lot of people. That's Congresswoman Debbie Lesko saying, I don't even have access to this phone number. So now we have, the list is growing. So I know of 3 people who do not have Rochelle Walensky's number. That would be Corey Inganamort, Debbie Lesko, and Vince Coglianese. We don't have this number that Randi Weingarten claims everybody has. Don't you think she would? You know what this tells me, actually, that she said that to you, Corey, that she said everybody has Rochelle Walensky's number, is that you're one of the only people who's ever confronted her about this, or else she wouldn't have set her own trap. She said, everybody has the number, and you said, I don't, and she looked at you dumbfounded. She had no idea how to respond.
That's such a good point. If she was ever confronted, she should have a better answer for that. Right? I didn't think of it in that way, but yeah, she should have a better answer for that because clearly everybody does not. No, only the highly wealthy, connected, powerful elites in charge of teachers' unions determining school policies have her number, apparently.
Only people who have the resources to stay in luxury hotel accommodations in the Puerto Rican island. The Caribe Hilton is one of the only places that you might run into her, and sure enough, you did. Thank goodness, and confronted Randi Weingarten. I love that story so much. I'm so glad you did. On behalf of the rest of the country, thank you for doing that.
It was my pleasure. Thank you, Vince.
Hey, by the way, there's I should point out, just by way of helping people understand why we're talking about this, that you are a longtime member of the Washington Nationals organization. You were. As the former mascot for the team for 13 years, including the time in which they won the World Series. So therefore, you have a World Series ring, yada, yada, yada. Corey's very famous for that. But today, you had the White House welcome a Major League Baseball team to congratulate them on a World Series win, the Houston Astros.
Yeah, that was today. And the Astros, other than winning last year's World Series, is most famous for cheating. They in 2017 were caught cheating. They were filming pitches from the outfield and relaying that to the dugout, and then the dugout was knocking on a garbage can.
They were banging on trash can lids. I remember this.
Yeah, so to let the batter know what kind of pitch was coming. So I thought it was kind of ironic. The cheating Houston Astros they won by cheating basically met the president who won by cheating. So I thought that was a bit ironic today. And I just wanted to remind everybody how much better the Washington Nationals visit to the White House was in 2019 when Donald Trump was president. It was just a party. It was an absolute party. And remember, Ryan Zimmerman thanked Donald Trump for keeping the world safe, and Nationals fans wanted to just like cancel him completely. Mr. National, he'll have his number retired for the Nats soon, and it's just amazing. Such simple words in Washington D.C. can try to get a player canceled.
Drives people crazy. So you were there at the White House for that?
I was, yeah. It was cool. I walked in with the players, and we had our own little green room in the East room, kind of right off the entrance of the East room. And the racing presidents, which I oversaw at the time, were performing in the White House lawn. So I just helped them get dressed. I got to mostly just hang out and watch all of it. Didn't have to get in costume as Screech. Screech wasn't there or invited. In hindsight, I'm not sure why, but I actually enjoyed it better out of costume. I didn't have to sweat my bed off, and I got to experience it all. It was just a really fun time.
Was that cool? Do the players like doing this thing, or is it just going through the motions for them?
No, I think they did. You can tell because at the time, Donald Trump, well, it was always super controversial, especially in the sports world.
I remember.
You remember I guess it was the Golden State Warriors, a couple football teams. I don't remember exactly. They boycotted their visit to the White House.
So stupid. Yeah.
To protest Donald Trump because of all the evils that he performed, such as a great economy, secure border, low crime. Like all that stuff is super offensive to these professional athletes.
Right.
So when the Nats went, it was actually. It was awesome because they kind of bucked the trend of avoiding Donald Trump's invite. So it was actually I remember there being a few players to boycott. Sean Doolittle comes to mind. He's a woke. I personally can't stand his policies. Very outwardly
crazy.
Yeah, crazy pro-transgender movement, child mutilation, all that kind of stuff. So, like, he was one guy, for example, who decided to boycott Donald Trump. So were a few others. But in general, it was a party. Like, they all enjoyed it. Donald Trump, unlike other presidents, got each of the players to talk on the microphone, say a few words, and it almost felt like a rally. Really, it was a lot of fun.
That's cool. That's really cool. What a neat experience. One of many that you've had. All right. Well, thank you, Corey, for all of it, for telling us about your time at the White House and confronting Randi Weingarten on behalf of grateful parents everywhere. Thank you, sir.